U.S. Army Apache crash rocks Texas. What really happened behind the sudden training halt? What is the U.S. Army not revealing about the Texas Apache crash as investigators dig deeper? Why did the U.S. Army suddenly ground Apache training flights after the deadly Texas crash? Army investigation deepens as the Apache crash raises fresh questions over a potentially bigger problem. USS Lincoln drama exposed mounting strain, and now the Army halts Apache flights too. Coincidence? Is Iran's revenge still haunting U.S. troops after the USS Lincoln crisis and now the Apache training halt? The U.S. Army has temporarily halted all Apache helicopter training after a deadly crash in Texas, as investigators work to determine what went wrong. 2 soldiers were killed when an Apache helicopter crashed in a field near Salado, Texas, on August 12, during a flight that ended in tragedy. The victims were identified as Chief Warrant Officer 2 DeAndre T. Huey and Warrant Officer Seth L. Olmsted, according to the Army. The 2 soldiers were the only people aboard the Apache when it crashed near Fort Hood, leaving no other crew members involved in the accident. The Army has not yet released a cause for the crash, as investigators begin examining the circumstances surrounding the deadly incident. A safety investigation team from the Army Combat Readiness Center is now examining the accident to determine what may have caused the helicopter to go down. The Army said Apache training will remain paused until investigators develop a clearer understanding of the root cause behind the crash. The Apache has served as one of the U.S. Army's core attack helicopters since first entering service in 1984, becoming a key platform for combat and training missions. More than 5,000 Apache helicopters have been operated by the U.S. military and its allies over the decades, making it one of the world's most widely used attack helicopter platforms. The Army has taken similar steps after previous aviation accidents, temporarily reviewing training and safety procedures before resuming operations. The latest training stand-down does not appear to include Apache helicopters currently conducting combat missions, meaning operational aircraft are not necessarily affected by the pause. Army's statement read, and I quote, "The stand-down will remain in effect until we have a better understanding of the root cause of the accident." Unquote. Apache helicopters have been deployed around the Strait of Hormuz during the Iran conflict, placing the attack aircraft in a high-risk operational environment. One Apache was also reportedly lost after colliding with an Iranian drone, adding to concerns over the dangers facing U.S. military aviation in the region. Aviation safety expert John Cox said the temporary pause allows the Army to avoid making assumptions or guessing before investigators determine the actual cause of the crash. The move also comes after years of scrutiny over the U.S. military's aviation safety culture, putting renewed focus on how the Army responds to serious aircraft accidents. The USS Abraham Lincoln is finally set to return home after completing a record-length 266-day deployment, bringing an extraordinary mission at sea toward its end. The aircraft carrier spent around 200 days operating inside a combat zone during the extended mission, keeping its crew under sustained operational pressure for months. Acting Navy Secretary Hung Cao said the Lincoln's deployment was extended because the mission demanded it, requiring the carrier to remain in the region far longer than originally planned. Cao said the crew was pushed to its limits throughout the deployment, but insisted that the sailors never broke despite the intense demands placed on them. Hung Cao said, and I quote, "Unfortunately, the media are trying to paint our warriors as victims. Not only is that dishonest, but it takes away the focus on the enemy and the threat it poses against our nation, people, and way of life. Here is the truth: 266 days deployed, 200 days in a combat zone, 10,000 plus sorties. 1.5 million pounds of ordnance dropped, and retention rates on the ABE are amongst the highest of all carriers. It is also true, a small number of mental health cases were treated with no loss of life. Meal plans were adjusted when fresh resupply was unavailable, without a single meal being missed. Calls home were limited when the operational threat was too high." Unquote. The US Navy says the Lincoln completed more than 10,000 sorties during its exceptionally long combat mission, highlighting the scale and intensity of its operations. The carrier also dropped around £1.5 million of ordnance during the deployment, underscoring just how heavily involved the Lincoln was in combat operations. The Navy said the carrier's crew kept flight operations and other critical missions running through months of continuous deployment, maintaining the ship's combat readiness until the final stretch. Pentagon spokesperson Kingsley Wilson rejected reports that the USS Abraham Lincoln crew was left without basic support during its prolonged deployment, pushing back against claims about deteriorating conditions. Wilson said a small number of mental health cases were treated during the deployment, while emphasizing that there was no loss of life linked to those cases. Kingsley Wilson said, and I quote, "The fake news media wants you to ignore the facts about the USS Lincoln. A small number of mental health cases were treated with no loss of life. Meal plans were adjusted when fresh resupply was unavailable, without a single meal being missed. Calls home were limited when the operational threat was too high. Our sailors on the USS Lincoln are victors, not victims. Cheap shots by the media to misrepresent their historic mission are disgraceful," unquote. The Navy has also said it has not seen an increase in suicidal ideation among the crew, disputing claims that the extended deployment caused a broader mental health crisis aboard the carrier. Wilson accused media reports of misrepresenting conditions aboard the carrier, arguing that some accounts failed to accurately reflect the reality faced by the crew during the prolonged deployment. She said the Lincoln sailors were victors, not victims, after completing what officials described as a historic and exceptionally demanding deployment. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has also dismissed reports about conditions aboard the ship, pushing back against claims that the crew was inadequately supported during its long mission. On August 14th, Trump also dismissed concerns over conditions for sailors aboard USS Lincoln, adding his own defense of the crew as the carrier prepares to return home.
So, the headline today, does everybody know Caroline is with us? The headline today is exactly that. You see it? It says prescription drug prices record sharpest drop in more than 60 years. Okay, got it? Everybody have it? And I told you that was going to happen. The second headline is this. The Trump administration marks 15 straight months of zero border releases as apprehensions was 94%. In other words, the border. And that means for 15 straight months we've had zero people crossing the border. Are you impressed? Is anybody impressed? You are. Thank you. I'll give you the first question, therefore. Go ahead. Go ahead. Anybody?
So what do you hope to accomplish this weekend?
I have a lot of things that are happening. A lot of good things. The economy is doing unbelievably from the standpoint of Wall Street just getting on the record. 80 times the best market in history. And that's good for 401ks. It's good for a lot of things, but it's great for 401ks and jobs. I always say it's great for 401ks and jobs. So we hit number 80 record. So 80 days out of a short 1.5 years. We have a record stock market. 401ks have set a new record. And you take a look at the border, 15 months with zero people coming through our southern border. Pretty amazing. And drug prices again. Prescription drug prices down more than at any time over 60 years. Okay, what else do I have to say?
Members are concerned about the conditions on board the USS Lincoln.
No, that ship is moving. That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship.
Was this gone on too long? Are you worried?
No. Not nearly long enough. Thank you, everybody.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.